Does Labour hate Britain and fun? They came for farmers. They're coming for veterans. They're giving away British territory. And now they're trying to close our pubs. So they've raised the minimum wage, hiked business rates, hiked national insurance for employers. I mean, it's got so bad that even celebrity chef Tom Kerridge, who was one of 121 business people who signed a letter endorsing the Labour Party just before the last election, even he has had enough.
4 spaces, 4 pubs, and all of them are going up at, pretty much over 100%.
Over 100, even
over
with
100%,
even with the relief that the Treasury says it's providing.
Yes, it's not relief that's taken away. It's actually, we're just softening the blow. It's still killing you off in 2-3 years' time. The moment the business rates have gone, that's it. What's the point in being open?
Well, I mean, that is what happens if you vote for high-tax socialists, to be fair, Tom. But anyway, look at the amount of pub closures in the last year. That's the graph on your screen. Obviously, the bottom one, the larger one there, is from 2025. Remarkable, that, isn't it? Shocking. Anyway, Labour are introducing the banter ban. So if someone says something in a pub that a blue-haired barmaid studying fine art at Bath Spa University finds offensive, she can sue the landlord of that pub for allowing that kind of crack in her boozer. Anyway, now they are thinking of lowering the drink-drive limit. Now, they say it's all about road safety. Rubbish. Scotland lowered the drink-drive limit. I mean, do you know what happened? Road traffic collisions went up by 7% compared to England and Wales. Alcohol consumption remained exactly the same, but fewer people went to the pub. So, there you go. Injuries from drink-driving incidents are also in long-term decline, down from around 20,000 a year in 1980 to around 5,000 a year since 2020. Now, obviously, I'm not endorsing drink driving, but in my opinion, this isn't really about drink driving. It isn't really about road safety. This isn't really about saving lives. It's about adding another nail into the coffin and put pubs out of business. It's about tearing down the fabric of society and a deep-seated hatred of British culture and the British way of life. I mean, the Labour Party is full of people like this.
As Caribbean people, we are not going to forget our history. We don't just want to hear an apology, we want reparation.
It's full of people like that. I think the government doesn't like the idea of British men and women having a place to congregate and moan about what a bad job Labour's doing. Labour MPs are banned from pubs right across the country. Sir Keir Starmer sees videos like this from the darts over Christmas. They're not calling him a banker. I'll just leave that there. And he obviously can't bear the idea of that being replicated in every single pub in the land. I mean, you have to drive to most rural pubs, so people just won't do that now. Pubs will close, people will move to more urban areas. It's another death knell for the countryside. But Sir Keir Starmer doesn't care about that. I mean, if he had it his way, he'd probably just never leave Islington. If you're worried about your local pub and community hub shutting down, Labour probably think that you just lack vision. You're not progressive enough. Where you see a pub, other people see a potential mosque.
Yo, where are you going, bro?
You're going into the mashty, my brother.
This is the Wivy Trees pub, mate.
Nah, listen, my brother. It used to be the Wivy Trees pub, not anymore, my friend. This is Noorani Masjid.
But just like how every supervillain has an origin story, something that happened to them that made them the way they are, so did Sir Keir Starmer.
That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub. Go on. Get out of my pub.
Labour doesn't understand Britain, British people, British culture or the British way of life. And that is why they are on a mission to shut the great British boozer.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private internet access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private internet access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Senior political correspondent at the Daily Express, Christian Cowgie, pub landlord and activist Adam Brooks, journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Adam, I will come to you on this first. It'd be a bit silly not to be honest with you. So, do you think that Labour are on a mission to shut pubs?
They clearly hate us. As you said, they don't want people congregating in pubs and slagging off the party or possibly the worst government that we've ever had. It's one thing after another. Both budgets have cost me an extra 40,000 or so in added costs since they've come into power. I'm doing okay. I've got a great pub. There are many that are not, and there are going to be record closures this year. But, I mean, the business rates in 2022, Labour put all over social media that they're going to scrap. There it is, look. They were going to scrap business rates and create a fairer system. But let me just tell you now, the average pub, business rates are going up by 76%. The average hotel, 115%. A supermarket, though, just 4%. Or a warehouse that Amazon might use, only 16%. So we are disproportionately getting punished. So you have to look at it like we are being targeted. And now we find out that they're going to lower the drink drive limit. Again, I do not condone drinking and driving. I've been a publican 20 years. I've taken keys off of customers to stop them driving. I'm responsible. That's the reason I'm a licensee. But, on a Friday between 3 and 5, I get your builders, your workmen that want to pop in, have 1 pint. That's not going to create any danger on the road. They want to have a pint before they go home and get nagged by the old woman or screaming kids, in their house.
Not a cliche at all.
But look,
not a dinosaur cliche at all. My God, how unreconstructed are you?
Well, you can look down Sodbury, but everyone watching this can relate to it, Nina, because we're working people.
Working people back in the 1950s. You don't talk about women like that and wives like that.
Well, it wasn't meant with any malice, was it?
Never mind malice, but
right.
it just slipped
out. The people watching will engage with me a lot more than they will engage with you, Nina.
Fair enough. That's the way they think. That's the way you think.
At the end of the day, we need help. And I'm part of a WhatsApp group now, and it's industrial action and protests that are coming to Westminster at the end of this month. We want 13% VAT, in line with much of Europe. They support their hospitality and their tourism industry. Right, it will keep prices lower. We're gonna try and hit them where it hurts, and that's at Westminster.
Okay, interesting. Well, we'll come back to that. Yeah, Christian, do you think this is really about drink driving and road safety?
I don't doubt for a second that Labour has snapped in half with the lightest amount of pressure from the usual puritanical lobbyists, and that's the problem. Look, I know it's been one thing after another, and this is just yet another straw that has snapped an already broken camel's back. But I don't necessarily think that Labour hate pubs per se, but they are so unideological, and it takes a certain amount of ideology to stand up to Puritans that are paid so much money to say if we tweak this, we'll reduce driving deaths by 5 a year, and they are clueless. And the reason that they can't stand up to them is because they don't have any vision or any views. The reason this upsets me so much is, as I say, I don't think that this in particular matters nearly as much as the business rates review or the changes to minimum wage or the workers' rights. Agreed. Or indeed the energy costs that Ed Miliband is doing nothing about. But once a pub closes, 90% of the time it's gone. And among all the crises, as someone who grew up in a rural area, I think back to what actually Clarkson said on his latest series of Clarkson's Farm about how much these community spaces matter when you've got loneliness epidemics, when you've got mental health crises. Pubs are so important. In fact, I thought much the same when Labour wanted to shut down the Boxing Day hunt. These are other events in rural communities where people get out the house, come together, socialise, have a nice time. You take all of it away, what are you left with?
Well, this is it. I mean, there's a pub I know relatively well where it's the only pub in the area, and there's some nice houses nearby. You've also got a couple of council estates nearby. A real mix of people. It's a bit of a sports club as well. But there's people there that have been going there for decades. There's also there's one bloke who's obviously kind of got the start of dementia who goes there, and he's actually kind of part of his routine, and people look after him. The minute he goes home. There's some people who are now adults who their parents used to go there. They've got special needs. They've always kind of they kind of gravitate towards the pub in the evening and all that kind of stuff. The idea of just shutting that there, that every single one of those people in that area would have nowhere else to go in the evenings or on a weekend, anywhere near where they live. I just find that absolutely crushing, really. And I do wonder how you feel about this, Neil. Do you think it is just all about the drink driving, or do you think they just don't quite understand British culture, pub life, all of that?
I think it is about the drink driving, and I agree with everybody. I think it's a tragedy when pubs close. Our local pub, fortunately, isn't closing, but it's been sold to the Young's chain, so it won't be the same as it was before. The drink driving thing is an important issue. I personally would have a zero tolerance, a zero alcohol, because what is the point of having one drink? Most people just want the second one, basically. So you have one drink, and I don't.
So, isn't it?
Listen, I'm quite. I have to confess. Back in the 80s, when I was a journalist in London, driving around London, there were no restrictions, etc., and times were very different. I crashed the car when I was drunk, and I lost my licence for a year. Now, I was very lucky in that and I knew at the time I was very lucky that I had not damaged myself or another person, and it was merely metalwork that was damaged. And I lost my licence for a year, and I learned a lesson, and I have never had a drop of alcohol and driven since. So there is a point. 300 people a year are killed on the roads at the moment, and we're talking about pubs closing, and they are tragedies. But we look back to 2017, the pubs are closing one a day. 18 a week were
Tories
closing.
didn't help us
27.
either.
Well, so you can't blame it all on the Labour government.
Because we do have some real world evidence on this, and that is Scotland. And the evidence shows that actually road traffic collisions went up by 7% compared to England and
But it could be drug driving, you don't know. Scotland has a terrible drug problem.
Well, okay, but
you don't know.
But then also the amount of alcohol consumed didn't go down. That was my other point here. They just started going to supermarkets buying it.
Well, exactly. And Scotland's a fantastic example of where the realities of real life clash with the, as I say, the sort of fun-hating activist lobby, because Scotland is the most puritanical country when it comes to minimum alcohol pricing, and the same with the roads. And alcoholism is so much worse. And it's part of that wider thing.
Yes, but
there's no
that's
point.
part
The
of
people having a pint at lunch are not the people causing drink driving accidents. They're the people that are going too far and are actively breaking the law because they don't care. And then you get into the wider question of, well, how are we policing this? Rural policing's already been decimated, and we're saying that someone who's had a couple of pints at lunch and then drives home 4 hours later is a bigger issue than shop theft, which already we can't police, or other issues.
Shop theft doesn't kill people.
I just think that there should be more of an incumbency on politicians when they introduce new regulations to say, how are we going to enforce it? And at the moment, there's no answer.
The thing is, in the countryside, as far as I understand it, people do take the risks. They do drink and drive. And, you know, they may or may not be found out until they crash.
Well, one of the things I will say is I see this every single day. In fact, I have to experience this every night when I go home. There are cars full of lads smoking weed. Or right everywhere I go.
Or doing those balloons.
Or doing the balloons as they're driving. You just see them all the time.
More dangerous.
All the time. And there's times when I'm driving and I'm stopped at traffic lights and I'm like, I can smell to it. And the bloke next to me just got a massive spliff. And you're like, well, where are the police for this? They don't seem to do anything with that kind of stuff. But what we'll do is we'll come after the people who have 1 pint at lunch.
Look, I just want one message to this government. You know, do they understand what we actually earn from a pint? I worked out with my accountant, it was between 15 and 16p per pint that I make in profit. Out of all that, out of £5.50 or whatever beer that I'm charging, 15 to 16p is all I get out of that. And mostly it's tax. And that's just, you know, it's not the same in Germany. The beer tax is 10 times less than what we pay here. Something has to be done. You can't collect taxes from a closed pub, and that is the thing. It's going to cost them more money in the long term.
It's the fabric of British society.
But Keir Starmer said that he would look at it. He would look at it again. And Peter Cowell, the business secretary, who was earholed by Tom Kerridge, has been sympathetic and is trying to do something.
By the way, I have very little sympathy for Tom Kerridge. I think he's a very nice guy. On any TV show I've ever seen him on, I've always thought he comes across quite well. I've got no issue with that.
He will survive. He's a multi-millionaire.
I mean, I imagine
most of us are not.
I imagine you don't sell fish and chips for 50 odd quid.
No.
So that's the other thing.
It's £15.50.
But I'm sorry, but you know, you tell people what the celebrities do. Stop doing it. You sign a petition, you sign a letter, you tell people go out and vote Labour. I'm backing Labour. This is great. Well, I'm sorry, you've got to carry the can, mate, when it all goes Pete Tong. But anyway, right.